Hi, listeners. Welcome to episode number 12 of How Do You Write? And I'm your host, Rachael Herron. And today's going to be super short and super brief in my little catch up because I talked to somebody who is just awesome, my friend Courtney Gillette, whose memoir will be coming to a bookstore near you very soon. I know this because I've read it and it is just gorgeous and beautiful, and you will really enjoy the chat that I had with her, as I am the luckiest podcaster in the world talking to the best people. I have had a very fun week of family and friends, and a writer friend is in town staying with me, and we've just kind of been tooling around the city, San Francisco, and going to bookshops and thinking about words and making words, and I have been making those words. Lots of words written. And other than that, I have a book coming up next week. I should tell you about that. That comes out on Monday, on August 28th, I believe it is. And it is the second book in the Darling Songbirds trilogy coming out from Random House Australia. And it's available worldwide. And it was really fun to write. And I'm writing the third book in the series right now. And that is the book that is still going really well. It's freaking me out, y'all. So that's all. Just writing and living, and really enjoying being a full-time writer is one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So I just and loving every minute. So let's jump right on into the interview. I love what she says, what we talk about briefly about not beating ourselves up as writers. I believe that we are really prone to that. So if you are beating yourself up this week about your writing or what you haven't done, stop it. Quit it. Knock it off right now. Just be proud of yourself for the writer that you are and the writer that you will always be. And if you can't get the words today, then sit down tomorrow and get some if you can. Okay? But don't beat yourself up. We don't need that. And we will jump into the interview right now with Courtney. Enjoy. Okay, well, welcome. We are talking to Courtney Gillette, who is a friend of mine, and I'm so happy to have her on the show. Hello, Courtney.
Hi.
Just a little bio. Courtney Gillette is an essayist and reviewer, reviewing books for Lambda Literary since 2010. She co-hosts the Hustle reading series and helps behind the scenes at BinderCon, and has served as a judge for the Lambda Literary Awards. And in 2013, her work was chosen by A.M. Homes for the Master's Review and nominated for a Pushcart Prize. And most recently, she was one of the finalists for the BuzzFeed Emerging Writers Fellowship. And she lives in Brooklyn with one bookseller and 3 cats, which I think is actually a very good ratio. I think 3 booksellers and 1 cat, that would be difficult.
It would be different, definitely. There'd be a lot more talk of books, I imagine.
Which is probably already a lot in your household.
Oh, goodness. Yes, it's like living in a library, but in the book way, not in the quiet way.
A friend of mine is in town, and we went to this bookstore that I love in San Francisco, and it's always a mistake. I just came out with books I shouldn't have bought, but they were...
Always.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have. Okay, well, let's talk about your writing process. What is the best time of day for you to write, and where do you write?
This depends on where. I have a little desk in my room, so if I'm at home at my desk, early morning works best.
What is early for you?
But then if I'm writing in a cafe, early for me, there's like what's actually early, and then what is my ideal early.
Yeah.
It's nice. My day job doesn't start till 9:30. So if I can get to my desk by 7:30, I have like a good hour or hour and a half of writing time before I have to leave. I want to be one of those people who wake up at like 5 a.m. and I'm just not there yet. So, slow process. But then, like if I'm writing in a cafe or in a library, I can kind of write any time of day, which is nice.
Yeah. Are you distracted at all by the cafe patrons, or?
If I can put in headphones and just kind of like plug along, it's pretty good. I have a white noise app on my phone too, so that is very effective for drowning out the cafe and public noises.
I love.
Sorry, as we're talking, there's a cat walking back and forth across my keyboard.
At your kitty.
That's Sappho.
That is a cat, not a bookseller.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I live with I absolutely love my white noise app, and we probably have the same one, but it also has a cafe sound, like a crowded room sound, which I use a lot. If the cafe is not quite crowded enough, I will actually put it on and turn it up.
Oh, that's smart.
And how do you write? Are you longhand, computer, a mix?
I am on the computer most, like 99% of the time.
Okay.
And yeah, and I've fallen into being a Mac user. I use the Pages app, which a couple of years ago I got it. It was just cheaper than Microsoft Office, and I now love it.
People who love it love it.
Yeah. Yeah. And they have, I think you can do this in Word too, but that enter full screen mode where it just shows you the page and it blanks out the rest of the desktop and all the noise.
Yeah. Does that actually keep notifications from coming in, binging?
It does. It does if you turn them off, which I guess is to say it doesn't.
Yeah.
I also always write with the Freedom app on, so it's like any Facebook type things are denied during that time.
Me too. Listeners, if you don't have Freedom, I cannot recommend it more highly. You get to choose how long you turn the internet off for, and I swear by it. So, okay, and are you a plotter or a pantser when it comes to your writing?
Oh, I am a pantser.
Are you? Okay.
This is a fun question because, for the last couple of years, I've been working on a memoir, which you think memoir would lend itself to plotting.
You do. That's why I'm so surprised.
You think. But I'm certainly having the opposite experience where it's almost like I have had to write a ton of material in order to then go back and organize what shape I need the story to be. So it has definitely been, flying by the seat of my pants in terms of writing this memoir that I'm working on and structuring it.
Which, full disclosure, I have read a draft of, and it is freaking brilliant, people. This is why I wanted Courtney on the show. I cannot wait until it is out in the world because I'm going to share it everywhere. What is the worst writing advice you've ever been given?
Oh, I love this question. The worst advice actually given to me has been to write every day.
Yeah.
Because I've used that advice to beat myself up mercilessly.
Mercilessly.
Thank you. I've used that advice to beat myself up endlessly. Because, it's like I've always been a writer who also has a full-time job. I was a teacher. I worked in administration at a nursery school for a while. I'm now at a literary nonprofit. And so when you're working full time, at least for myself, I couldn't write every day. It was like I was very exhausted a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And so kind of letting go of that. And I actually had a great moment like a year and a half ago when my friends and I started the Hustle reading series. One of our first guests was Daniel Jose Older. And he's fantastic. And he, when kind of talking to the audience, he said he wanted to dispel the myth of write every day. He was like, some people can't, and that's okay. Like, write when you can. And it was just the permission in that has been wildly helpful.
Oh,
so
that's great because it is such a pervasive piece of advice. And it works for a lot of people. It works for me in a lot of ways, but then I'm one of those people, I write really hard a lot, and then I accidentally turn around and a month has gone by without writing at all. So
totally.
And that's recovery. That's recovery time. So yes. I'm really glad to hear you say that, and I hope that will dispel the myth for other people who are listening. What secret writing tip of awesomeness have you discovered the hard way?
Ooh, the hard way, I've discovered that I need to finish things. And I think this is actually great advice that is passed along. But I very, very much, a lot of the time, I start things and I don't finish them. And it also just starts to build this sense of I'm not doing anything. It's like I was lucky, like 2 years ago, I had a month at a writing residency at the Vermont Studio Center. And one of the first things I did when I got there is I kind of went back through, all of my writing documents from the last couple months, convinced that I had not written anything. And I actually had been writing a lot. I just hadn't been finishing anything. So the hard way, I have learned that I need to finish things, not only because then when something's finished, you can edit it and you can send it out into the world, you can find a home for it. But also for myself, it's like it gives me such a better sense of accomplishment and real perspective on how much I do accomplish as a writer.
Yeah. What are the things that you're starting and not finishing? Are these essays or?
Mostly essays. Yeah, I've been mostly married to essays and this memoir for the last couple years. And I way before that I did used to write short stories. Put it down, start a story, start an idea, start an essay, and then just kind of like meander off and then tell myself for weeks that I'm a terrible writer. When it's just like if I just finished things,
Yeah.
I would have a lot more. I'd have a lot more to show.
I everything we're talking about right now brings back to I think it's an Elizabeth Gilbert quote, and I will misquote it terribly, but she says that you just have to give yourself a lot more forgiveness in writing than we do. Like writers we're so good at beating ourselves up either for not finishing things or for not writing every day or for all of these things, but then to see that you are writing and did realizing that help you finish things while you were at the residency? Did you?
It did, definitely. It showed me a lot too about my process. Where it's like perhaps there are essays that I start writing that they're not worth finishing. But if I can finish even the bad things, I learn so much from that, and endings are not my strong suit, which I'm learning right now. The memoir I'm working on, the biggest sticking point right now is the ending. And I think that developing the muscle of finishing stories, of finding a natural conclusion, of seeing it through is for me that's a part of the craft that I'm still working on.
For me, that was the biggest magic part of my writing life, was the very first time I ever finished a novel, even though it was in terrible shape and it was awful. I'd never finished anything in my entire life, even including through my master's degree. I'd never finished anything. So the words "the end" to me are super, super awesome. So
oh yes.
And how do you refill the creative well for yourself?
This, it's a little bit cliche, but I am a sucker for a great art museum.
Yeah.
I think, being kind of bookish, and it's like always being in words and being in language, being able to just wander around an art museum and kind of zone out and have visual stimulus is really, really, it's really, rejuvenating for me. And also in New York City, museums are blessedly quiet, especially if you go on a weekday and there's not a ton of tourists. So I've had some lovely, lovely afternoons just kind of walking around a very quiet and a very beautiful museum space.
That makes me want to be in one right now. Do you have a favorite museum in New York, or is that impossible?
It's kind of impossible. It's nice that we have so many. Although I finally, last month I got over to the Whitney, which the Whitney is now the new Whitney, which is downtown, and it's fantastic. Oh. It's a really, really cool space.
Oh, our MoMA just reopened, so I've got to.
Oh, good.
I think it was a few months ago. I haven't gotten there yet, but I will get there. Okay, next question. On really bad days, what other profession do you wish you had or had chosen?
I wish I had chosen to be a dancer.
Really?
And my dream, I know this is a weird one. My dream gig, if I could wake up tomorrow and just be a different person and have a different gig, I would want to be a backup dancer for Beyonce.
That's the best answer ever.
Just a backup dancer. It's I don't have to be center stage, right. But just to be a backup dancer and to have that level of discipline and that level of awesomeness. Yeah. I would be so happy. But dancing is, I have a lot of admiration for it. My brother's I call him an acrobat, but he calls himself a physical theater dancer. But I would, that's my fantasy. Do
you have the dance in you? Do you go out and dance? Is that something?
No. If you asked me 10 years ago. I do love dancing, and it's a shame that, the older I get, the less I go out and the less dancing that there is in my life. But, it's I love movement, definitely.
Oh, I love that answer. Thank you for that. It was unexpected and very delightful.
Oh, good.
Can you give us a quick craft tip of any sort?
Sure. Yeah, I was thinking about this question, and this one, it's super basic, but it helps me so much, where it's the very simple trick of whenever I'm writing something, and especially when I'm writing an essay and I'm trying to like evoke a past time,
Mm-hmm.
if there's something specific I can't remember, like the name of a movie or like the name of a town, I will just write XX and then keep going to fill in later. It took me the longest to figure that out, where I'd be writing and then I'd be like, oh my gosh, but what was that Portishead album? And then I'd like be down an internet K-hole of, all of Portishead's discography, where it's just like, no, I just could have written XX and then keep going with the story at hand.
I think that I learned that pretty late too, and I learned that with using the program Freedom. Because if you're not online, you can't look up Portishead anything. And so
Totally.
I use an asterisk for my XX, but I have friends who use XX, and it's just genius. You put it in there. It's not a big deal, and the reason we're drawn to it, I think, is because we want to procrastinate. I want to go online, and while I'm online, I might as well look at email and Twitter and all of that. That's great. Thank you. And what would you like to plug right now? Is there an essay that listeners can go read that you'd like to tell us about?
Sure. Kind of one of the funnest projects that I have going on recently is I do a monthly tiny letter.
Which is great, listeners. Sign up for this. I enjoy receiving your tiny letter so much.
Thank you. That's a high compliment.
Yeah.
So last fall, I just needed a deadline. I needed a project. And so I started a tiny letter called First of the Month, where I write a short essay and send on the first of every month. And I'm actually, September will be my 1 year tiny letter anniversary. So I'm excited. And it's been a really nice project to talk about, seeing what I can accomplish, having that monthly deadline, and then also being accountable and having lovely, lovely subscribers write back and say, this was great, or, oh, I remember when that happened, or it's been really touching. So that is tinyletter.com/Courtney AJ, which is also my Twitter handle, Courtney AJ.
How long are those essays approximately? Are they about 1,500 or so?
They're a little bit less than that. I strive for 800. They're more likely 1,000 to 1,200. One of the best seminars I took when I was getting my MFA was one on the 1,200 word essay, and that concise frame, that like very strict word limit really forces you to, synthesize the story into its best parts,
You get a lot of meat in there, though. They're really, really juicy. I have a few letters I like to get the Lenny letter, but that's sometimes hit or miss with the things that are in there. Yours is never a miss, so
thank you.
No pressure on you. But and how, this is just my curiosity, but how what's the last minute version of doing this? How late has it gotten before you started?
Oh my God, I have gotten up, talk about getting up early. I've gotten up at like 6 a.m., 5:30 a.m. on the first of the month to finish writing the thing.
I'm so glad to hear that. That's what I wanted you to say.
It's completely. And it's like every month I do the same thing. It's like I hit send and then I'm like, all right, Courtney, like you've got 4 weeks.
This time you're going to do it. Yeah.
And it's at the end of every month. There are like a million alerts in my calendar that it's like tiny letter, 31st. What are you going to do? So
that is
definitely
great.
Having that deadline has been so helpful.
Well, you are so enjoyable to read. And where can listeners find you besides the tiny letter?
Sure. My website is CourtneyGillette.com. And then I'm mostly active on Twitter, which again is Courtney AJ, where there's a lot of pictures of said cat.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being with me. Hang on for 1 second after I let you go, and we'll chat a little bit more because I like to do that with my friends. But thanks for being on the show, Courtney.
Thank you.